The American dream used to be a house, a car, and maybe a boat. Now it's hoping your credit card clears at the grocery store. Hey, this is Coinrad, and today we're breaking down the 5 brutal reasons the American middle class is dying. Reason 5. Healthcare eats paychecks. Let's start with healthcare, because nothing says middle-class struggle like avoiding the doctor just to dodge bankruptcy. Americans spend nearly twice as much on healthcare as people in other rich countries. And what do they get for it? Higher premiums, bigger deductibles, and medical bills that sneak up like a horror movie jump scare. Back in the 1960s, healthcare was around 5% of household spending. Today, closer to 20%. That's 1/5 of your paycheck gone before you even think about Netflix, gas, or, eating. It's not just insurance premiums. It's surprise bills, prescription drug prices, and the fact that hospitals charge like they're running an exclusive nightclub. That'll be $9,000 for sitting in the ER waiting room. Water? That's extra. And this isn't just a poor people problem. Even middle-class families with good jobs are drowning in it. One bad diagnosis and boom, your savings vanish faster than your dentist says open wide. So yeah, healthcare doesn't single-handedly kill the middle class, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. And those cuts all need stitches, which will cost you $4,000. Reason 4. College equals debt trap. Next up, the supposed golden ticket to the middle class, college. For decades, the story went like this. Go to college, get a good job, buy a house, live happily ever after. Classic American dream stuff. But today, that ticket looks more like a receipt for lifelong debt. Since the 1980s, tuition at public universities has tripled, adjusted for inflation. Tripled! That means a degree that might have cost your parents $10,000 total now runs $30,000 per year. And that's before you even think about rent, books, or the world's most overpriced cafeteria pizza. Result? Student loan balances in the US total more than $1.7 trillion. That's more than the country's total credit card debt. Which means for millions of young Americans, the first real financial move they ever make is going tens of thousands into the red. And that debt doesn't just hurt at graduation. It delays everything else: buying a home, starting a family, saving for retirement. In other words, the exact stuff that makes a middle-class life feel stable. Here's the irony. The thing that was supposed to create more middle-class Americans is now one of the forces crushing them. Reason 3. Housing became a rich person's game. Let's talk about the holy grail of the American dream, owning a home. Once upon a time, a single paycheck could buy you a house, raise a family, and still leave room for a lawn gnome. Today, good luck with that. The price-to-income ratio has basically doubled since the 1970s. Back then, the median home cost about 2 or 3 years of salary. Now it's closer to 6, sometimes more, depending on where you live. That means housing has gone from build wealth to good luck outbidding Wall Street. Yep, investors are scooping up homes and renting them back to the very people who can't afford to buy. Imagine Monopoly, but instead of everyone starting equal, one player shows up already owning Boardwalk, Park Place, and half the houses. That's the US housing market in 2025. The middle class was built on homeownership. But today, it's a gated club where the entry fee is a 6-figure down payment. Reason 2. Wages flatlined, bills exploded. All right, let's zoom out. Because even if you somehow dodge student loans and win the housing lottery, you still hit a wall: wages. Since 1979, worker productivity has climbed about 60%. Wages? Barely 15%. Translation: you're working harder, smarter, and faster, but your paycheck is basically running in place. Meanwhile, bills, rent, childcare, groceries, all rising like they're competing in an Olympic pole vault. It's like being on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while someone slowly turns up the incline. You can sprint all you want, but you're still sweating bullets just to stay in the same spot. Here's a stat for perspective. If wages had kept pace with productivity, the median worker today would earn about $90,000 a year instead of around $60,000. That's 30 grand missing from your pocket every year. And guess what filled that gap? Debt. Credit cards, auto loans, and personal loans. The modern middle class isn't thriving. It's juggling chainsaws with a blindfold on. Reason 1. The rich took all the growth. And now, the number one reason the American middle class is on life support: inequality. Over the past few decades, the top 10% grabbed roughly 70% of all wealth. The bottom 90% fighting over scraps. Stocks, real estate, corporate profits, almost all the gains from growth have flowed upward. The middle class spends most of its income on daily life, so they don't have money left to invest. Meanwhile, the wealthy use their existing wealth to buy more assets, which makes them even richer. It's like showing up to a basketball game where the other team starts with a 50-point lead. Their hoop is twice the size of yours, and every time you score, the ref hands them your points. This is why the middle class feels like it's fading. It's not laziness, it's not avocado toast. It's that the rules of the game tilted hard toward the top. So, here's the brutal truth. The American middle class is shrinking not because people stopped working hard, but because the system stopped rewarding hard work. Healthcare bleeds you dry. Education chains you with debt. Housing is locked behind a paywall. Wages don't move, and the rich are playing a whole different game. The middle class wasn't lost overnight. It's been hollowed out brick by brick until the American dream looks less like a dream and more like a timeshare presentation you can't escape. And if it feels harder than ever to stay afloat, you're not imagining it. This is Coinrad. Hit subscribe and stick around for more stories about money, markets, and the madness they create.